Welcome back to Fiercely Unfiltered. Today, I want to talk about the year I regret most in my life. I always say that I don't regret a lot, but for this year, I regret most of my decisions. It started November 1st. It was 2 days before my mom's 1-year death anniversary. My husband at the time was in a hotel for the weekend, started a fight with me as an excuse to get out for the weekend. On Sunday, before the week started, because we worked together, I called and asked him if he can come over so we could talk. I knew the coming week was going to be hard because, again, it was my mom's 1-year death anniversary. So he said, sure. I was at home just gathering myself, waiting for him to come over, and my son walked in. And he was like, what are you doing? I'm like, well, I'm waiting for Garen to come over. We're going to talk. And he was like, he doesn't need to come over. And his reaction was weird. And I was like, what do you mean? And he was like, he doesn't need to come over here. And I was like, can you tell me more? And he pulled out his phone and he showed me a picture. When I looked at that picture, time stood still. My heart shattered. I didn't know whether I felt worse for myself in that moment or if I felt worse for my son. Having to carry the burden of being the messenger for a message like that. And I'm sure he knew it would destroy me. It was a picture of my husband and a half-naked female on his phone. You might ask how he got that picture. Little brief is he was running our company Instagram page. So my husband ended up going to Mexico with some friends that weekend and ended up getting with a girl down there and letting her take pictures of them on his phone. And she sent a picture to our company Instagram page that said, fuck me. And my son's the one who saw it. And he deleted it so no one else at work could see it. He kept it to himself. I'm not sure if he would have even told me if he wasn't coming over probably the same day or within 24 hours of him receiving that picture. I didn't know what to do in that moment. I knew my husband was grieving. I didn't want to make this all about me. So I confronted him when he came over. The situation turned into more of him being upset with our son for sharing it with me, which kind of triggered me because you shouldn't be letting someone take pictures of you if you don't want anyone to see them, like common sense 101. So for him to be mad at our son in any way for sharing that with me just broke my heart even more. So we had a conversation. He left. We went to work for the next month. He came back and forth, went in a hotel for a week, would come home for a couple of days. There were things that happened during that time that kind of confused me, made my reality not really reality. When he came home, he'd bring his laundry and I'd find underwear in there that I swear wasn't mine. And I'd be like, whose underwear is this? And he'd be like, that's yours. And convince me it was mine. And I was in such a bad place that I believed him. And I even wore it at times. And to learn later it wasn't mine, just the feeling of betrayal and to grieve the trust I thought that we had was devastating. And for the next month, we went back and forth. He talked to me about him getting his own place. It wasn't ever about our marriage being over. It was about him needing space, him never being successful and on his own in life, him wanting to try that out, be on his own, which we were together since he was 19. So I kind of understood that. I asked if maybe we can get a place and he can go stay some weekends. And when he's not there, I could stay there because I needed space too. Like I still wanted to be able to heal. He made it at the time that maybe that was a possibility. But when he moved out, he had 2 employees from work with a moving truck come. Then he had his assistant unpack him. So now what we were going through personally was now a part of our business. People knew. Even if I wasn't telling them, now they were involved in some way. So they were telling others. I couldn't handle being in that house where the only thing that was missing was him and his closet was empty. And now I had a new bed. It was enough to go to work and have to deal with everything, which I was able to do that. But to come back home and be in the situation with the same animals, my kids were all the same responsibilities, if not more now, because I was the only one taking on now his responsibilities because he left. So I went to Huntington, found an apartment, and I was gone 7 days later. I didn't really talk to my kids about it. They were 17 and 18 at the time, kind of just left. I didn't want them to see me the way I was. This was the year that I was embarrassed of my decisions. I was embarrassed of the person I was being. I always said that if someone showed they didn't want to be with me, then I was going to move on. There's so many people in this world, and I don't want to ever beg anyone to be with me. But in this situation, I did everything I said I would never do. Even though I moved out, we still spent New Year's Eve. We went to Glamis together. We went to Cabo for Valentine's Day. We talked about maybe seeing if we could work it out while we live separately. So still at this point, I was getting DMs from females saying, hey, I just want to know if you're in an open relationship. Just wanted to be a girl's girl and let you know your husband's on vacation mode on Bumble in San Diego. And we weren't together. So thanks for the heads up. But yeah, we're not together. But he wasn't giving me all the truths when I would confront him with things like the underwear I found in the laundry. He could have easily said, yes, they are someone's underwear. I slept with someone else. I don't want this marriage anymore. And then I could have been making decisions based on reality. But I was fed partial truths. So my reality was all over the place. Didn't know up from down at this time. Every apology had excuses. Every truth really was a lie. So it was hard to trust anything. So I was in Huntington. He was in San Diego. Our business was in Lake Elsinore. We had a great time in Cabo for Valentine's Day. We had talked about having a workout, him not seeing other people if he was. But then 2 weeks later, he calls me and he says he can't get a hold of his dad. And I was like, oh, maybe his phone's dead. Let's think positive. And he was just freaking out. So he was calling his family in Washington saying, please go check on my dad. I was trying to stay positive, saying, hey, I'm sure nothing's wrong. And I'm driving from Huntington to Medcare in Lake Elsinore at the time. And then he calls me back or texts me and says he's dead. My cousin went to his house and he's on the couch dead. And I was like, what the fuck? This was probably 6 months after his grandma passed. So it was just a perfect storm. One thing after another. We couldn't catch a break. So I was on my way to Lake Elsinore. I was almost there. I said, I'm coming to your place. I want to see you. He had booked a flight to get on a plane to go back home. I said, I'll be there before you have to leave. So I went down there, gave him a hug. And while I was down there, I spotted a license and a credit card on the counter. And there's a picture of this female that I had seen in pictures with him before. I look, she's 22 years old. I was like, who is this? Oh, that's my friend's girlfriend. They came over the other night and she left her stuff here. I'm like, oh, well, you're about to leave for a week. Don't you think you should call him and let him get it to give it to her? He's like, oh, no, it'll be fine. Don't worry about it. Okay. Didn't want to make it anything more than it was. Dad just found out his dad died. So he flew up to Washington. I think it was probably 4 or 5 days later, I flew up to Washington. He picked me up from the airport. We went to his dad's house. We spent a couple of days going through everything in his dad's house. I helped him get all the important documents, paperwork he needed, all that stuff. So I was still supporting him as much as I can. We came back home. I went to his place, stayed a couple of days, cleaned it for him, did his laundry, washed his sheets, and then went home. We ended up seeing each other at work a couple of days later, and he just was back to anger. Now it wasn't just his grandma that died and didn't get to see him with his biological kids. It was now his dad too. And I was like, holy shit, I was just getting through to him. I was just seeing my husband again, and then his dad died. Then a week later, he went to Cabo again. He said he went by himself, but at work, I heard whispers. I heard people talking that he was with a female. And it was the female whose license I saw on his counter the day he left to see his dad. I was like, I knew it. This is the girl that he's been seeing this whole time. And he's been lying to my face. Like, I don't understand why there can't be honesty. So me and him didn't really talk that much, probably for the next month or so. He was so angry. But then it was May 9th was my son's birthday. So we all went paintballing. We put our feelings aside. We both went. His sister came down. It was fun for my son. I remember whining to his sister, like, can you talk to your brother? I don't understand. I think he's going through a midlife crisis. Like, I don't understand why we can't work together at Medcare. I don't understand why he's so angry. And she was like, I just don't understand either. So I was dealing with all that. In May, I decided to do an egg retrieval. Don't ask me why. Me and him were going back and forth on whether we were going to work it out or not. And I knew he wanted kids. So I didn't want to be me being too old and not having kids be the reason we weren't together. So it cost me $25,000 during this time when I was trying to grieve. I was going through all this. I was giving myself hormone shots. I got 5 eggs. They're frozen right now at a center. Pay $700 a year. I know I'm probably never going to use them. I don't want kids anymore. I'm 47. But pay $25,000 and do all that. I just can't get rid of them. So maybe someday I'll donate them to someone. I haven't decided, but I'm just going to keep paying that $700 a year until I figure it out. So froze my eggs. He actually is the one who drove me to the center and took me home, dropped me off, went back to work. We ended up spending our anniversary together, June 12th, at the hotel we got married at in Laguna Beach. We had a good time, went out to eat, did everything we do, and then went back to work. Then we ended up, my birthday was June 25th. He ended up coming up to Huntington to spend my birthday with me. I remember eating and him just going off on me about a bad review we got at work. And I was just like, what the fuck is going on? Like, this is my birthday lunch. We haven't seen each other for a couple of days and we're talking about work. That's when we started talking about maybe we shouldn't work together. If we wanted this relationship to work, then we shouldn't be working together. He said how he wished that he had a life that was professional and business separately. He wishes when we became business partners that we kept it at that and we didn't go any further, but we did. And we created that life. So he was like, if there's any chance of us being together, then maybe you should step back in a consultant role and we can work on a relationship. So I thought about that. But then on my birthday, when he acted like that, I was like, we need to think about this. I'm not willing to walk away from my company if this isn't really something you want. Like, I need to understand it's really something you want, or I'm not willing to walk away. And at that point, I realized I don't think it was really something he wanted. So I said, I'm not giving up Medcare. And I said, I'm staying. And I went to HR. I need a mediator so we can work this out because we need to be able to work together. So she scheduled a call for us, me, her, and him to be on it to see what we could do. I was excited about that call. I was like, yes, someone's going to help me. We're going to make this work. And we get in that call and she starts it off by saying, I just wanted to let you know that when the king and queen create a kingdom together and the king no longer wants the queen around, the queen needs to leave. And I was blown away. I was like, are you serious right now? This is where we're going with this? And she's like, well, Garen, do you want her here? And he's like, no, I don't think we could work together. And that was pretty much the gist of the conversation. So for the next 6 months or so, I kind of stayed away. I was so broken that I didn't have the mindset to get up and go. They didn't want me there, so I was taking that time away. It wasn't until January where I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. I feel like someone being bullied out of something, but then no one knowing that's why. They're thinking I don't care and I'm just not showing up anymore. So in January 2022, I decided I'm going to file for a divorce. He still hadn't filed for a divorce. And that's one of the reasons I don't really believe in marriage anymore, because he just got in a fight with me, went to a hotel and started fucking people. Like, I would have thought, at least because we were business partners too, that he would have filed for divorce, had conversations with me so we could still have the respect with each other and still work together. But that wasn't the case. So after I filed for divorce, the next thing that happened was the board had a board meeting. I actually am one of the 5 members on the board. I'm the only female. And they brought to our attention that the company was about to run out of money within the next 30 days. And what did we want to do? So I decided, since the last year I regretted everything I did, I decided I'm going to start doing what I think I should have done. So there's no what ifs. So they said, make a plan and let's go over it. So I made a plan. We had a board meeting. I presented my plan. I said, I'll fire everybody right now. There's $60,000 a month we were spending on management and people doing my job that I did by myself. So I said I'd fire all of them. And on that meeting were the people I was talking about firing. So I had to put my big girl panties on and sit there in front of 8 men after they were all told I was unstable and I haven't really been around for 6 months. I had to go in there and give them my plan that I'll come in, I'll take over. I'll fire everyone we don't need. I'll cut expenses and I'll make sure we don't run out of money in 30 days. The board voted yes. They brought me back in the end of February. So I didn't take the CEO role, but I was in charge. Garen was working with me and I was making final decisions. And we worked great together. When he had to work with me, he worked with me fine. So we saved the company, didn't run out of money. I had 90 days I was in charge. Before the 90 days was over, the board wanted to vote him out of the company. We had just took $3.6 million investment in a couple weeks before I was told the queen's got to go. So I really wasn't in charge of any of that investment. I didn't see any of it. I didn't have control of it. So they shouldn't have been running out of money. So they wanted to have Garen not in charge. They wanted me to be in charge. I was the deciding vote. There's 5 people. 2 people wanted him out. 2 people said he could stay. And I was the deciding vote to decide if he stayed or went. And I decided that this was the company we started together. Our personal life shouldn't dictate our professional lives. And so I voted him to stay. I said we should work together. We did it for this last 90 days. We can put our personal aside and we can work together. So after the 90 days, he was back in charge. I think that was March, April, May. So we got back in charge in June. And then by September, he kicked me out again. So it was just crazy that I got kind of forced out, came back, worked together, was the vote to keep him there. And then after he didn't have to work with me anymore and other people feel like he had devils on his shoulder and other people could benefit if I wasn't there. If I was there, they couldn't be the second in charge. So I feel like he was misled on what was going on there because he wasn't there as much as he should have been. And that led to a lot of problems. We also still didn't have honesty. He wasn't telling me the truth. When I came back in February, we started sleeping together again. I don't know why. He was with a female. He was with a 25-year-old at the time, which was something else that was crazy. They had been together for, I think, 7, 8 months at the time. We started sleeping together. He said his relationship with her didn't affect his relationship with me. We kept it a secret. We didn't tell anyone, but there was a day that we had a Zoom meeting for work. He took it from home. I was on it too. And he was in his spare bedroom with the closet open. And I could see it filled with female clothes. And I'm sitting on the Zoom meeting with the video on, and I'm learning for the first time that he's living with someone. And this is when I don't think it's fair. I always said it's like I'm trying to live my life and I'm getting grenades thrown at me from friendly fire. It's like if he would be honest with me and tell me what's going on, then I could process and I can make decisions based on my value and my self-worth, what I want to do. I got upset with him because I was like, I deserve to be told if you moved in with your girlfriend, we're fucking. He's like, I don't owe you anything. And at that point, I was like, you don't owe me anything? You don't think I deserve to know that I'm sleeping with someone who's living with someone? That's a decision I want to make. I want to make that decision. So I actually felt bad for his girlfriend that he was sleeping with me. So I sent her a text and I told her, just FYI, your man's still sleeping with me. Like, just want to let you know, because I felt bad that me as his wife was sleeping with him and he was sleeping with someone else. So he convinced her that I was a crazy bitch and I was lying. So their relationship stayed. And me and him continued to have sex. So there's more decisions that now I knew he was living with someone, but I chose to keep having sex with him. But that was a decision I made based off reality. So that was good. So that happened. More stuff happened at work. It was just storm after storm. In August, we slept together for the last time on August 29th. It wasn't that day that we got in an argument. It was at work meetings 5 times. I think this was the 5th time in September that we were in a leadership meeting with everyone in charge in our company. And he said, shut up, you stupid fucking bitch. And this is a point where I actually was getting coaching from someone. Like, how do I handle this? What do I do? Because if I react wrong, then it turns into a yelling match between me and him at our workplace. The other 4 times he did it, I just sat there and I cried sitting in my seat, but I didn't fight back. And then eventually I just would leave the meeting because I was crying. The last time he did it, I said, take it back. I deserve to be treated with dignity and respect. Take it back. He said, well, don't be a stupid fucking bitch and I wouldn't have to call you one. I got up and I left. It was at that point he called the board and told the board that I was leaving meetings and disrupting it. Did not tell them that he called me a stupid fucking bitch, and that's why I left the meeting. So that's how not all truths were being told. So he had secret meetings with the board that I didn't know about. I was the 5th board member, but he'd have meetings with the other 4 members telling them these stories and leaving out crucial parts. They made up stories that I was yelling at employees, that I wasn't returning calls, just everything that could have been fact checked, but nothing was. It was just their word was taken. No conversation was had with me until one of our board members who's in our industry said, hey, I need to meet you. Met me at Starbucks and said, you can't go back. Medicare is no longer for you. Garen's going to run it. Move on. And that was September 29, 2022. And that was the day I decided that I'm taking my life in my control. And that was the time I decided that I'm not going to be this weak bitch anymore. And I'm not going to live my life like that. And now I don't live my life like that. So this was the year that I wish I would have done different. This is the year that taught me more about myself than every other year in my life. This is the year that I went against all my values. Everything I ever said I wouldn't do when I was put in situations, I did the opposite. It has taught me not to judge any situations because you never know how you're going to handle a situation till you're put in that situation. So be kind to people. Don't judge everyone. There's 2 sides to every story. Just like for the story I'm telling you right now, I'm sure my ex will have a different version of it, a different perspective. That's fine. That's his story. but this is mine. And I want to live in my truth. I want to be healed by sharing the parts of me I'm shamed about, because when the shame and embarrassment comes to light, it has no power over you anymore. So I'm not ashamed of anything that I've been through, because now I'm proud of how I'm handling it. And I know that I will never bend my values and my self-worth again, no matter the situation I'm put in. Because my mindset now, I'm like a thermostat. I'm going to set my energy to badass, and I'm going to walk in a room. Everyone's going to feel that. I'm not going to be the thermometer that lets other people's words dictate how I feel about myself. So be the thermostat. Be the person whose energy controls the room. Make this world a better place. See you next time.